Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into a really fascinating and, let's be honest, pretty unconventional idea. What if your life wasn't just a series of random events, but was actually a sophisticated operating system, one that you could consciously design and run? Let's get into how this framework says you can do exactly that. So, this is the core mission statement right here. Now, when it says divine intelligence, it's not talking about some distant abstract force. Think of it more as the underlying order and creative energy of the universe, a sort of source field. This system is all about aligning with that field to turn your inner intentions into actual real-world results. So what does that actually look like in practice? Well, think of it this way. Your beliefs, where you put your focus, your energy, these aren't just random feelings. In this system, they're the code, they're the inputs, they're the processing power of your own personal OS. You're not just a user of your life. You are the lead developer. To really get our heads around how this works, we're going to break it down into 4 parts. We'll start with the big picture, the core philosophy. Then we'll look at its processing architecture. After that, we'll cover the daily rituals, and finally, we'll see what's on the roadmap for the future of the system. All right, let's start at the beginning with the big idea. What's the fundamental principle that this whole system is really built on?
What's really interesting here is that this isn't just one school of thought. It's actually a fusion. It takes ancient spiritual wisdom, principles from scripture, Zen, the concept of chi or life force, and blends it all with modern, structured strategic thinking. The key takeaway is that you're not just a passive passenger here, you're positioned as an active co-creator, someone who uses these tools to deliberately shape your own reality.
And this slide really highlights the huge shift in mindset that the system is all about. It's contrasting what it calls reactive living, where we're just getting pushed and pulled around by whatever happens, with architected living. The goal is to stop reacting and start designing an internal framework that actually shapes your outer world, bringing some deliberate order to the chaos. Okay, so if this thing is an operating system, how does it actually process anything? How does a simple thought and intention become something tangible in the real world? Let's pop the hood and look at the engine. The core of this whole processing engine is what the system calls the spiritual chambers. The best way to think about this is like a mental assembly line. It's a very specific sequence designed to take an idea from that very first little spark and guide it step by step all the way to becoming a physical manifestation. Let's walk through this sequence. It all kicks off with perception. That's just you receiving information from the world around you. Simple enough. Next comes interpretation. This is where you decide what that signal actually means to you. From there, you form a clear intention, your desired outcome. Now, step 4, alignment, is absolutely crucial. This is where you get your mind and your energy completely in sync, focused on that one intention. And only then do you move to the final step, manifestation, which is the physical action that brings it all into reality. See? It's a very clear, systematic flow from input to output. So we've got the philosophy and we've got the internal mechanics. But how does somebody actually use this system day to day? Well, that's where the daily operating ritual comes in. You can think of it as the user interface for this whole OS. The daily practice is broken down into 3 pretty distinct phases. First is the morning activation, which is kind of like booting up the system. You set your core intention for the day with declarations and breathwork. Then you have daytime execution. This is when the system is running live, and you're using that 5-chamber sequence to process events as they happen. And finally, there's the evening evolution. This is like running diagnostics and installing a software update. You review the day, you learn, you adapt, and you strengthen the whole system for the next go-around. And it's really important to get this. The purpose of this whole ritual isn't just to feel good. The entire framework is designed for practical application. It's about taking these big, abstract concepts like divine intelligence and actually translating them into tangible, measurable results in your life. Now, like any good operating system, this one isn't meant to be static. It's designed to be updated and to evolve. So let's take a look at what the framework's design outlines for the future, for what it calls version 1. The text makes it really clear that the core engine is already live and operational. This isn't just a theory, it's an active practice. The next stage, then, is all about building out a more robust suite of strategic tools to make it even more powerful. And here are some of those planned upgrades. We're talking a visual map to actually diagram the architecture, a scripture integration engine to turn wisdom into specific actions, and a timeline system for long-term goals. But what's really interesting is this strategic mastermind protocol, which seems to hint at a multi-user or a collaborative version of this OS. It's a seriously ambitious roadmap.
So the whole point of all these upgrades is to create an even more effective, unified system, one where your spiritual practice isn't separate from your daily life, but is the very engine that's driving measurable, real-time progress.
This quote really just captures the entire process in a nutshell, doesn't it? It's a complete life cycle, from the spark of an idea through the discipline of action to achieving results and ultimately creating a lasting legacy. That's a powerful vision. And that really brings us to the end. It leaves us with a pretty thought-provoking question to chew on. If you were to think of your own life as an operating system, what are the core beliefs, the fundamental lines of code that are running your reality right now? And maybe more importantly, what would you want them to be?